This content includes graphic imagery that may not be suitable for young audiences. Content includes gore, aggressive deaths, foul language, nudity, drugs, sexuality, etc. By continuing, you acknowledge that you are responsible for your mental health, and the risk you are taking by watching this content. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello again everyone, welcome back to the Devil's Den. In episode 6 today, we're looking at a game called Sanitarium. This game was requested by Bob Evan, and I'm so glad that he asked me to review this because this is a really great game. Created by Dreamforge Entertainment, who has other games I haven't seen or even heard before, Sanitarium had won awards but ended up losing those awards to a game called Grim Fandango, which is another game I haven't heard of. So where do I begin? Firstly, it was released in 1998, and it was awarded the best adventure game of that year until in which Grim Fandango stole that title for best game. If you're here because you like dark, creepy, eerie, and messed up horror, and a damn good adventure game, then this is definitely the game for you. I've always been a fan of good, creepy horror games, and I feel like this game really satisfies a lot of aspects a horror fan wants. Let's start off with the gameplay. Unlike other games, Sanitarium immediately draws the player into the game without a main menu. Once inside, the perspective of the game is of a bird's eye view. The gameplay is a point-and-click adventure puzzle game. The one unfortunate thing I have to mention right away is that the game doesn't have a tutorial of how the controls work. Luckily, it's not that big of a deal since the controls consist of only using the mouse. The controls are pretty simple. You press and hold the right mouse button and move it in the direction you want your character to move. Obviously, the left mouse click is to interact with stuff. The escape key is to access the game's menu. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory once you start playing. Now, I did get ahead in the game all the way to chapter 3, but I haven't beat it yet, so I'm still playing it. The gameplay itself is very good. Although the puzzles are simple in some ways, you do have to keep your eyes peeled for objects you might have missed, or just simple things you didn't think to do. Game overs are not a thing in this game, meaning you never have to worry about dying and starting over your whole process. The only process you have to start over is a path you're adventuring on. Also, don't expect any gory death scenes in this game. I really liked how simple and yet kind of challenging the puzzles were. Unlike the next game we're going to look at, that was much harder with its puzzles, I like how this game gets you thinking but not too hard. Considering the fact that most other puzzle games make you combine items and do extra stuff, this game doesn't make you do that. The only problems I have with the gameplay is that I wish Max could walk faster at some points, because when you're walking around back and forth, it gets a little jarring of how slow he is. Another thing that could have been nice is that I wish the dialogue would just automatically play with certain questions, because there are certain questions that go right along with the previous ones that were already asked. Another thing that bothers me a lot is that I wish certain items you can collect could at least stand out a little bit more. It can be quite hard to see the few items that you would actually need to progress. Kind of makes it a little jarring as to figuring out what to do because you might have missed something. Other than that, the gameplay was pretty good. The story itself, I enjoyed a lot. I love how the worlds have this very distinct atmosphere for the game. The emotion this game gives you is rather fascinating, because in Chapter 2, you're dealing with innocent children who seem to be undergoing a lot of abuse and mutation. Once you dive deep into it, it becomes more and more disturbing. I also love how they show the flashbacks, because depending on who you talk to and how much you ask, you can achieve small flashback scenes that tell the story of who Max was, our main protagonist. I really like how Max's character is portrayed. His character consists of being of what seems a polite, calm, cool, collected man that stands for no nonsense. It's very interesting how his character kind of comes across as this almost neutral entity, but at the same time, when the shit goes down, he's not afraid to stand his ground and do what's morally right.
Mother, I should call you what you are, nothing but a disease.
Mind your tongue, human. I am more parent to these seedlings than you or anyone else could be.
These aren't your seedlings, they're children. Flesh and blood, don't you see that?
I see.
The overall story is about Max trying to figure out what actually is going on. Since he's lost his memory in a car crash, he ended up in an asylum full of crazy, insane people, and at some points ends up in a whole other world full of aliens, monsters, or whatever the hell that seems to lurk around in that said world. And basically they want to take over the world, or whatever the hell they get. You get the idea.
I think this game is very well conducted. I am finding it extremely difficult to not keep playing. The artistic value in this is extraordinary. It is hard to find such good classics these days.
Yeah, most definitely. It's especially true with most old games. I know a lot of people don't like emulation, but I don't think it's a bad thing as long as you're only doing old games and not new ones. See, the thing is, what a lot of idiotic people don't seem to understand about old games is, old games are very hard to come by, and if you do come by them, they are fucking expensive. It's not enough that the consoles themselves are fucking through the roof, but you also have to pay hundreds of dollars for one old game that isn't even worth all that money. It's a shame because there's plenty of unique classic gems out there that are damn near almost impossible to get a hold of, let alone paying for the fucking shit. I mean, hell, I'm just lucky enough that my all-time favorite game, Primal, made it to the PSN store, and you don't know how lucky I feel, honestly. And luckily, there are still games that have been remastered and brought to the modern era. Also, emulation should probably only occur as a last resort when you can't get a hold of that said old game. Anyways, I just feel lucky to have discovered another gem in the stones. My verdict for this game is an 8 out of 10. A really damn good classic gem. I recommend this game to everyone. It's located on the Steam store for about $10, and $10 for a game that has really great quality is a good deal to me. So I recommend you buy that game. It's really good. Bob Evans, I definitely see why this game was your favorite. It really is a great game, and I'm going to hold on tight to this one. So thank you for requesting this game, but I think this concludes our episode for today, ladies and gentlemen. So if you have any recommendations on what type of outfit you'd like to see me in for my next review, be sure to leave a comment. Also, be sure to leave any game requests that you might have. Other than that, we'll see you later.